Welcome to the news on Zodiac. I am Chancellor Zavanda. First, the headlines. ADMAC says it will start purchasing maize and other farm produce on Monday next week. Expert says Malawi has a long way to go to achieve universal health coverage as it relies heavily on donor funding. President Chakwera talks tough on mudslinging by some Tonse Alliance members. And in sports, Farm says postponement of World Cup qualifiers will allow the country renovate its stadia on time. We now give you the news in detail. ADMAC says it will start purchasing maize and other farm produce on Monday next week. Its board chairperson, Alexander Kusambadzonzi, says the parastatal intends to purchase about 1.1 million metric tons of maize from farmers by the end of the exercise this year. Meanwhile, Farmers Union of Malawi FUM President Frighton Njolomole has called on ADMAC to ensure that there is consistent availability of funds towards purchase of the produce. Andrew Viano has filed this report.
ADMAC will this year start buying maize from farmers beginning next week, about 3 months earlier than it has done in the past harvest seasons, according to board chairperson Alexander Kusambadzonzi. The parastatal has been under fire for a long time for failing to join the maize purchase season quicker than vendors. According to the past trend, the state grain trader used to start buying maize either in September or October. Kusambadzonzi says they intend to purchase 1.1 million metric tons of maize at 150 kwacha per kilogram, as said by the Minister of Agriculture.
That buying crops from farmers when the moisture content is around 10 to 13%. So we will be opening as we also get the confirmation from our quality assurance officers as to where exactly we can actually open those markets. We are buying not less than 1.1 million metric tons of maize and 110,000 metric tons of other crops. And the other crops that the rice, nandolo, ntedza, cotton, and others.
Meanwhile, Farmers Union of Malawi President Frighton Njolomole has appealed to ADMAC to ensure consistency in availability of funds for the purchase.
The more they delay, definitely they give chance to the vendors to come and exploit the farmer. We can say we are very, very happy that ADMAC has now made up that decision. We want them to start now.
This year's maize production has been estimated at 4 million metric tons, up from 3 metric tons of last year. During the mid-year budget review meeting, the Minister of Finance set aside 10.4 billion kwacha to be used for the purchase of maize.
The Center for Multi-Party Democracy CMD has expressed fear that the political parties may not meet the 30th June deadline to be in tandem with the new Political Party Act. Office of the Registrar General for Political Parties issued a statement that all political parties that do not comply risk being deregistered. CMD Executive Director Kizito Nkhani, however, doubts if all political parties, for instance, will manage to solicit 100 signatures. Chimoy Padata reports.
Center for Multi-Party Democracy, CMD, fears other political parties may fail to get their parties re-registered. CMD's Executive Director Kizito Nkhani told us other parties will not source the 100 signatures as required by the new Political Parties Act that seeks to bring sanity in the operations of political parties. Nkhani told us political parties should pick the votes while they source the signatures to meet the deadline.
To collect those signatures, if political parties have the structures that they claim they have, then it's something that can take even less than a week, because it's a matter of giving an instruction to the regional chairperson, and the regional chairperson, goes to his district chairperson, and then the district chairpersons would go to their constituency chairperson. And these are the people at the constituency level that would collect.
United Democratic Front UDF Secretary General Kandi Padambo says the party has so far sourced signatures from a number of districts in the northern region.
We have finished collecting all the signatures in the northern region, including the Poma Island. We have finished with all the districts in the central region. We have also done a number of districts in the southern region, and we think that by next week we'll complete all the regions in the southern region.
Malawi Congress Party spokesperson Reverend Morris Muntali says the party has made progress to get it re-registered.
We will announce to the Malawi nation of the process and how we will handle everything else concerning the registration of our party. We will do our best to make sure that we meet the deadline of 30th June.
This comes as the 30th June re-registration deadline is fast approaching amid fears other parties risk being deregistered if they fail to comply. For Zodiac, this is Chimwemwe Padata.
A local NGO says the country has a lot to do to achieve universal health coverage as it still heavily relies on donor funding on health financing. Director of Programs and Strategy of Facilitators of Community Transformation FACT, Dr. Benjamin Azaria Musiwa, made the remarks in Lilongwe Friday during a stakeholder meeting to discuss his findings of the status of health financing in the country. Member of the Parliamentary Committee, Enoch Pali, has suggested that insufficient funding is also due to wastage through mismanagement. Hence the need to come up with laws that will not only convict perpetrators but also recover the money embezzled. We have a report filed by Western Guta.
According to findings of a research carried by the Facilitators of Community Transformation FACT, Journalists Association Against AIDS, JONAIDS, and a consultant, Impala Insights, Malawi still has mountains to move to achieve the universal health coverage, this due to insufficient funding to the health sector. It has been noted that Malawi contributes only 11 of the recommended 15% of funds it was supposed to fund the sector, with a huge chunk, 58%, coming from donors, raising fears that should donors pull out, the sector can definitely collapse. FACT Director of Programs and Strategy, Dr. Benjamin Azaria Musiwa, has thus said there is need to find sustainable strategies of funding and a reduced donor dependency.
Could be also management, as we have already seen. Another discussion also was, or another example that was given was the misappropriation of funds by the recent COVID-19 allocation. So those are some of the challenges to universal health coverage.
A member of the Parliamentary Health Committee, Enoch Pale, says insufficient funding is in part due to mismanagement, hence the need to come up with laws that will not only convict perpetrators but also recover the embezzled money.
Probably we should come with a proposition. We come up with a bill that can translate into a law later, that we can have a proper restoration system of whatever is being stolen from the public.
A Deputy Director of Planning in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Gerard Mantalu, says there is need to keep in check issues of accountability in government systems so that funds are ably saved to fund primary healthcare services.
It's a very risky situation to be in, and especially as we think of self-reliance in the new Vision 2063, that's something that we must address.
Malawi rates poorly in the area of health financing compared to its neighbors Zambia and Tanzania, for example, with South Africa funding its health sector 4 times than Malawi does. Reporting for Zodiac, I am Western Guta.
Ministry of Education says increasing access to vibrant and competitive high open distance learning could assist the country have more numbers of skilled workforce to maximize production of goods and services for the country's economic growth. Director of ODL in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Joshua Valeta, said this at the graduation of 91 ODL students at Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, MUBAS, that he believes this also has the potential to provide opportunity for the most vulnerable youth access higher education. Christopher Sunday reports.
There was excitement at Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, MUBAS, when 91 open distance learning electrical installation students graduated. Director of ODEL in the Ministry of Education, Joshua Valeta, says vibrant and competitive higher open distance learning is the key for the country to have skilled workforce. He believes this will provide opportunity to the most vulnerable young people to access higher education.
As you know, the vision of the ministry is to have a vibrant and competitive education sector, and as the Directorate of Open Distance and E-Learning, we want to attain equality of education opportunities.
MUBAS Principal Associate Professor Nasa Chitera said they have incorporated entrepreneurship and innovation in all the programs to support government's agenda in creating employment.
So, as a new university, we are going entrepreneurial and also innovative. What we are going to do is that each and every program that we offer, There will have to be an entrepreneurial part and an innovative part. And that is why we brought in a motivator in the entrepreneurship field, so that everybody should get the message that even though, yes, you can go there and look for jobs, but everybody has the potential.
Associate Professor Chitera further said that the university is planning to introduce 10 new degree programs soon to respond to the country's urgent needs to achieve socio-economic development. Reporting for Zodiac, this is Christopher Sande.
An agriculture expert says Malawi needs to start putting more attention on soil management through application of natural fertilizers to maximize agricultural productivity. Professor Venon Kabambe from Halirongo University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Luana, says at the rate the country is losing its soils, it would make economic sense to invest more in organic fertilizers, which have proved effective. In the 2020-2021 national budget, government has spent close to 160 billion kwacha providing chemical fertilizers to farmers through the Affordable Input Program. We have got more in this report.
Climate change and land degradation are the main problems affecting agriculture, which continues to be Malawi's economic hub. The issue of land degradation is a serious challenge, as Malawi loses an average annual topsoil loss of 29 tons per hectare. In February 2019, Luana launched the Agriculture Ecological Hub to function as a network that supports research to respond to the changing environment and farm variability. The coordinator of the Agriculture Ecological Hub, Professor Venon Kabambe, says time has come for Malawi to change its approach towards the use of chemical fertilizers and concentrate on soil management.
Sometimes you apply too much and you get very little out of the fertilizers, although you see an impact. That getting a little of it, it's because the soil itself, you have not really taken care of it. In this, that's why in this situation we are saying, let's take care of the soil. In fact, farmers would be surprised that they will start applying much less fertilizer. In fact, they may not even apply any at one point.
On her part, Director of Land Resources and Conservation, Mrs. Gertrude Kambaua, says government has put in place measures to address land degradation, which is an issue of concern at the moment.
What we are promoting is to have interventions in the farmers' fields that will help to retain that water in the field. If it has to get out of the field, it has to be done at a velocity that is not erosive. And that's what we've been promoting. We've been promoting contour ridging, which is making sure that we have ridges across the slope, but also at an angle that will make sure that the water is slowed down, because it is the velocity that is an issue.
Among others, the hub has managed to incorporate agroecology issues into undergraduate programs and training of staff and farmers on the issue.
You're watching the news on Zodiac. We'll be back after this short break. Stick around.
This marriage is a punishment for you, and you are going to be suffering for the rest of your life.
I thought you'd married some supermodel. Look.
Narero, alipitireni Go TV Mosavuta. Just dial *247# to pay your Go TV or DSTV subscription. Standard Bank, it can be.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You feed her mind and nurture her body. And you understand there are times you have to let her pick herself up when she falls. You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex.
Good health starts here.
Tipolole. Kungonjezera ma-units ATNM kuyambira 200 kwacha kapena kuposera pamenepo mutha kukhala mmodzi mwa mamilioneya mu TNM Tipolole promotion. Koma mukaonjezera ma-units ndi 100 kwacha kapena kuposerapo mudzilandira ma-bonus oyimbira foni, SMS kapena data pompo.
TNM, always with you.
ShopRite has always been here for you, and our promise to bring you low prices when what you need most will never change. Buy 1 kg Rite Brand Smooth Peanut Butter for only 2,499 Ndambala, and buy 2 500 grams Flour Gold Fat Spread for only 1,299 Ndambala. We are also doing the best we can to ensure that you have a safe shopping experience. So be sure to follow all safety protocols in store. ShopRite, lower prices you can trust. Always.
Welcome back. The headlines as we continue. ADMAC says it will start purchasing maize and other farm produce on Monday next week. Expert says Malawi has a long way to go to achieve universal health coverage as it relies heavily on donor funding. President Chakwera talks tough on mudslinging by some Tonse Alliance members. In sports, FAM says postponement of World Cup qualifiers will allow the country to renovate its stadia on time. Now, moving on with the news, President Lazarus Chakwera Friday afternoon warned Tonse Alliance members that he will not condone those denting other people's names to gain political mileage. He was speaking in Kasungu Central, belonging to fired Labour Minister Ken Kandodo and Ruth Mzuzu. The president preached honesty and truthfulness among the citizens for the country to make significant development. No Kubo reports.
President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera fired MP for Kasungu Central, Mr. Ken Kandodo, from his cabinet recently after he was implicated in the massive plan of public funds for COVID-19 management. Kandodo, who is a grandnephew of the late Dr. Hastings Kamsbanda, was the Minister of Labour, and on his way to the north, the president had a stopover in Kandodo's constituency where he made some confessions. Dr. Chakwera told the gathering that he had drawn lessons from the firing of the Labour Minister and that the two met behind closed doors.
Ndalama zimenanka nena kuti anthu anagwiritsa ntchito kunduna kwawoko adabweza. Nthawi zina tikakhala m'maofesimu timakhala ni mabwana amene nthawi zinasane na chilungamo.
He says there are some public officers within the system who allegedly dent the image of others to gain political mileage. The president has warned his government will not tolerate such people.
Akudziwa kuti ukagwa azinena kuti timadziwa tikuti ena m'maofesimu timacherana ndale.
The head of state preached love, patriotism, honesty and truthfulness among the citizens for the country to develop. He, however, reaffirmed his commitment to stamp out corruption in the country. Kandodo, who spoke earlier, said he had no grudges with the head of state and he respects him as a father. He pledged support to the party and the government despite being booted out of cabinet. A recent audit report revealed that the Minister of Labour spent over 600,000 kwacha sponsoring an international trip for the former Labour Minister to accompany the President to South Africa, borrowed from COVID-19 funds. For Zodiac, this is Noah Nkubwi, Kasungu.
Authorities at St. Michael and All Angels Church of the CCAP Blantyre Synod have appealed for support from government to rehabilitate the church, which has clocked 130 years, it being a national monument. Reverend Stevens Chapman said rehabilitation of such an old church and others listed as national monument churches in the country is very expensive, yet they need to be preserved for the country's history. Tourism Minister Michael Usi says government is ready to engage the church to improve the status of the old monument churches. Christopher Sunday.
Officials at St. Michael and All Angels CCP Church in Blantyre Synod say God has been faithful to the church in the past 130 years when they have been able to spread the gospel and implement socio-economic activities in the country. Reverend Stevens Chapman says through St. Michael and All Angels Church, various interventions including commerce, education and health have been promoted. He, however, asked the government to rehabilitate the church at HHI, which happens to be the national monument.
This is a church, it's a national monument. Being a national monument, it's a place rich in history. Yeah, and apart from that pride that the country has in it, yes, we have a challenge to make sure it is maintained.
Tourism Minister Michael Usi says government is ready to engage the church to improve the environment at HHI, being one of the prominent historic sites in Malawi.
These are our heritage sites. We value them highly, and that's why we have been visiting the heritage sites and making sure that we support those sites.
Officials say the 130 years prayer celebrations, which are expected to take place this Sunday, will be done internally in attendance of 250 Christians due to COVID-19 restrictions. Reporting for Zodiac from Blantyre, this is Christopher Sunday.
Let's now move on to sports. The Football Association of Malawi FAM says the postponement of Africa's World Cup qualifiers is a blessing in disguise, as it will allow the country to renovate its stadia to host the games in September. However, the association's Competitions and Communications Director, Kwagwanji Zakazaka, says despite the development giving an opportunity, it also poses a financial challenge for the Flames to fulfill assignments as they will play over 5 games within a short period. Bright Kanyama has the details.
The postponement of Africa's World Cup qualifiers has drawn mixed reactions from different quarters, including the Football Association of Malawi and sports analysts. FAM says the development is a blessing in disguise, as Malawi was listed among countries to host its home games away from home due to poor conditions of its stadiums. FAM Communications Manager Kwagwanji Zakazaka says the FA will ensure the Flames play its home games in Lilongwe at Bingu National Stadium, given that the qualifiers will now start in September 2021. However, Zakazaka says despite having an advantage, the development also poses a financial challenge, as the Flames will be expected to play 5 games between September and December, as well as fulfill AFCON games in January 2022 in Cameroon.
From the administrative point of view, I would say it's a blessing in disguise for Malawi. Looking at the issue that we are dealing with, issue to do with the venues, Bingu National Stadium, which was our alternative, was not certified because of not being inspected. So basically, it was a blow and a challenge to us.
Meanwhile, sports analyst George Kaldamasina has advised the FA to lobby for more funding towards the Flames through Malawi National Council of Sports to ensure that the Flames fulfill all assignments.
It has to be appreciated that the new financial year of government is starting, and Parliament will be in session for the budget session. It is now apparent for FAM to lobby with the Malawi National Council of Sports to increase the funding for the national team.
CAF postponed World Cup qualifiers, which were scheduled to start in June 2021, to between the months of September, October and November, with the final round set for March 2022. For Zodiac, this is Bright Kanyama.
And that's about what we had time for in this news edition. Before we go, another look at the headlines. ADMARC says it will start purchasing maize and other farm produce on Monday next week. Expert says Malawi has a long way to go to achieve universal health coverage, as it relies heavily on donor funding. President Chakwera talks tough on mudslinging by some Tonse Alliance members. sports, Farm says postponement of World Cup qualifiers will allow the country to renovate its stadia on time. Visit our website zodiacmalawi.com for more news. COVID-19 vaccination is underway in the country. Make a decision now. Protect yourself and those around you. My name is Chansimo Zavanda. Thanks for watching.
What do you do when your rights as a consumer are violated?
Call CFTC.
Who do you tell when there are anti-competitive business practices?
You tell CFTC.
What do you do when you notice deceptive business conduct?